Hello, and welcome to the latest Q&A in Screen International's For Your Consideration series. I'm Jeremy Kay, Screens America's editor, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Kristen Stewart, the Oscar-nominated star of Spencer. In the movie, hi Kristen, hello.
Hi, I am also delighted. Please go on.
I was going to do that in a minute later, but hello, lovely to have you. In the movie, Kristen plays Princess Diana. The story takes place in the early 1990s as Diana joins the British royal family for several days over the Christmas holidays at the Sandringham estate. She's been married by this time to Prince Charles for 10 years and is deeply unhappy and looking for a way to change her life. Spencer was directed by Chilean auteur Pablo Larraín from a screenplay by Stephen Knight, and starring alongside Kristen are Sally Hawkins, Jack Farthing, Timothy Spall and Sean Harris. The film premiered in Venice last year, and besides the Oscar nomination, Kristen has earned multiple nominations from various groups around the world. Neon is the US distributor. Kristen, welcome and many congratulations on the Oscar nomination.
Thank you so much.
Well, it's great to have you, and I'd just like to start by asking you this. Diana, of course, was a global icon, beloved throughout her life and since her tragic death in '97, which comes years after the events of this movie. As an American actor, I wonder, did you feel less pressure taking the role because there was that distance of not being British and having grown up surrounded by reports and images of Diana every day?
A seminal memory that that is still a picture in my mind is the flowers in front of Buckingham Palace. And I think I was 7 when she passed away. I know I was 7 when she passed away. I don't know why I said that. I do think it was like looking off of a building and going like, there is a parachute, because Pablo is such an incredible director and the script was so substantial and so, it didn't dictate, it didn't try to prescribe her inner life. It did feel, it felt so true to how she makes me feel when I see pictures of her and when I watch videos of her. I think it maybe helps that I'm American, because it's like, I don't know, it looks like more of a magic trick or something, that it's like, you know, that you can do the accent, but her voice is so particular. I don't know any English person that speaks like her exactly, obviously. Anyway, I kind of had to just not think about any of the daunting nature of it at all, and jump knowing that Pablo was going to like pop out of my backpack and float us down to earth, you know?
Yeah, and I'm going to come on to your collaboration with Pablo a little later on, but you mentioned the memory of the flowers. I was going to ask you, given that, what did she mean to you personally as you grew up?
To be honest, there was my entire impression of her was just that people were so upset about losing this person. And so I was like, wow, she must have been special. You know, I was very young when she passed away. I didn't have much of a formed idea of her at all. I just thought that she was really beautiful, and she obviously seems like a nice person. It's kind of a basic way of putting it, but it's very clear. And yeah, I mean, I had to kind of do all of this research, not in order to play the part properly or to get her right, because the script was so concise and it was so precise. But what I needed to do in getting to know her and learning about her is sort of build like an emotional connection and like a friendship with her. I had to feel protective of this person. I had to sort of like just absorb that energy. And as sad as the movie is, we deal with a very tumultuous time in her life. These 3 days are a sort of imagined spiraling into ultimately the hardest decision she would ever have to make in her life, and one that was not easy to make, and one that was going to literally explode. She was going to burn it all down. There's joy. Like, she's just so wonderful. Even every single day on set, even when I had to sort of go into the darker areas of what she experienced, I still felt really great. And it's like, I don't know this person, but whenever I think about what happened, I truly cannot fit it in my head. I can't believe, I feel loss. And that's what the whole world felt. And before I made this movie, I didn't really get that, but I noticed it. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, people must have really loved her. I understand now completely why.
Yeah, they certainly did. That's absolutely right. She was unique. And, you've spoken a little bit about getting to grips with playing this role. She was such a celebrity, so well known. Everyone feels they know something about her. And yet there's so much mystery to her too. When you play somebody like this, who's so world famous, are there certain pitfalls that you want to avoid, things you want to avoid in your portrayal?
I didn't want to get anything wrong. If there was anything in the script, we were making a movie about ourselves and how she made us feel. I could never know her. And ironically, she's just sort of one of the most unknowable figures in history because she had such a unique experience in this life, and no one ever really has had that experience. So there's this isolation that is inherent in her every single posture. Yet she also is someone who comes out to hear, like just reaches, she's like unstoppable. And no, I just knew that there was no way to do it perfect. And the only way to really like maybe have the experience that I wanted to have was to make it to be really selfish and be like, I feel like I did the research, I learned the accent, and I kind of just let her infiltrate. I don't know. There was nothing it was a very dreamy experience. And I didn't think about like what everyone was going to think. I took it, and I could see why maybe some people don't like it. You know what I mean? It is a movie that is very personal, and I think with a story that has so many details that you like want to cover and that people are so curious about. And I am too, like all the salacious stuff, it's fascinating. But I'm not interested in movies that tell you what things look like and answer every question. I really want to know what something feels like. And this internal experience, I just was like blown away by sort of the commitment to perspective in this case. And so I had to just I just had to be there.
Yeah, and you certainly were. And I recall in a print interview you did with Screen, you described the film as a poetic, surreal, psychotropic fantasy.
Yeah.
Right, and Pablo's told me it was like an upside down fairy tale, but can you elaborate a little bit on what you meant by that?
Well, I think I think most people watching the movie know something or other about Diana or have some kind of relationship with what happened. So you can project so much onto the movie. It's a really choose your own adventure almost. Like in this case, to step into someone's body like that, it's almost like John Malkovich. Like I feel the way that he shot it, everything. I've never really seen a movie that felt so inside the body. And I don't know. There's just no way to know exactly how she felt, but you can feel her in every vibration that she creates in a room. And this movie was about breaking free. This movie was about liberation and running. And it just needed to sort of feel like what it feels like to live inside and not outside. It's like if you say to someone like, man, I am dying. I feel like my head's going to explode. Instead of saying that, Pablo just was like, okay, pop her head off. Do you know what I mean? Like, cause that's what it feels like. Or, you say like, this necklace is killing me. I want to rip it off and fucking eat it. Well, we did that. You know what I mean? Like, I think movies allow you to dream like that in a way that we can't do unless we're sleeping. Like it's a really cool opportunity to step inside. Yeah.
And then further to that, because, you've mentioned some of the scenes there, the eating the necklace, and there were the scenes of bulimia, of course. There's so many tonal shifts in the movie with that sort of psycho horror, but there's so much tender moments with Diana's boy, and of course the servant played by Sally Hawkins. We always stayed connected with you, no matter what Diana was going through. What was there a lot of improvisation and rehearsal? How does Pablo like to work?
There was no improv. Obviously I can't talk, so it's good that there was no improvising happening. The only scene that we shot with 2 cameras and had a sort of rough outline and plan and sort of goal, but we didn't really know how we were going to get there, was with the boys over candlelight in the middle of the night when she goes to play. And we just played the game. There was just no way to have that three-headed animal, beautiful family bubble feel so alive. And like, that's what you're protecting. You're watching this movie and you're like, well, she needs to go because this is too important. She's only herself when she's like, you know, she only feels unconditional with them. And other than that, the script was really exact. Like Pablo and I would maybe decide to like take a line out, but we never really put one in. It was so well written and we talked a lot. We didn't rehearse at all. We're both like, luckily we both have this feeling like it's so you should be filming. If you're doing something, if you're trying to touch it, if you're trying to touch the thing, like don't touch it unless we're there doing it. And there's a sort of like, I don't know, it's very self-important and whatever, but it's the only way to do it. You have to sort of inflate like the scenario to the point where it's like just the most important thing. So to rehearse is like ridiculous, like silly. Like why would we pretend when we could actually just do it for real? I ran lines with my dialect coach and Pablo really accepted him into the creative process. And it was really nice to have a third set of eyes to see her. And Pablo has no ego. He has a very healthy ego because he's confident, but you can't mess with it. And so you can suggest anything. You can be like, I fucking hate this. He knows what his movie is and he protects it. And he also lets you feel like it's yours too. We didn't rehearse, but we did. Like we didn't do classic rehearsal, but we were just all together all the time and kind of ruminating on this woman. And he never stopped taking pictures. I was like, are you trying to give me the experience that she had, which is like, she's like the most photographed woman of the century. I was like, put your camera away, man. You're so obsessed. Like, yeah.
He spoke so highly of you when I was lucky enough to interview him earlier in the season. Had you been familiar with his work?
I had seen Jackie. I had not seen any of his other movies before I worked with him. I recently watched No, and it is one of my favorite movies. That performance is so, I don't even know how that came together. His movies feel, my favorite movies feel like, how did they do that? I don't know how they did that. Yeah, he's an incredible person.
And you've spoken now a few times about your dialect coach, and I've got to ask you, I mean, you absolutely nailed that accent. And as you say, it's kind of unique, but, you know, listening to it with British ears and closing my eyes when I was watching the film, it really floored me. What was that process like?
It was really hard. It was so scary and hard. Because it's like you can learn how to play an instrument, or you can learn, you know, you can teach yourself a lot of things, but before you know how to play the guitar, you can't visualize it. You can't imagine it. You can't imagine what it feels like. And so I trust process, and I trusted Pablo because like, who am I to be like, no, I think you're wrong. I don't think I can do it. Like, he was like, you can do this. I want you to do this movie with me. And I was like, okay. And yeah, I relied so heavily on time. I worked for like 4 months. I usually can't come near a project until we're about to go because it drives me crazy. I can't sleep with this like looming thing. She was looming over me for like 1.5 years before we actually began living and breathing her. So I was running lines via Zoom. I couldn't actually spend time with William Conacher, who's my dialect coach and an incredible acting coach in general. And I've never used one of those, but in this case, it was just like such, I don't know, it's to sort of not be alone. It's to have like a study partner and you know what I mean? And not to feel like kind of like you're going nuts. Anyway, so finding her voice was fun, but it took forever. And the first time I used it on set, Pablo came up and was like, you have got this, calm down. And I was like, okay, that was a very good direction. You are right. And then we just kind of started going, and every interview, everyone's always like, so is there a word, or can you do a little bit of it? I'm like, I will never do that as long as I live, but I will never forget that voice. I could do it right now. Like it is, I know exactly. I just drilled it. Anyway.
But so you may not do it again publicly, but do you do it to yourself sometimes for giggles?
I couldn't revere this woman more or have more respect for her. It is like astounding, the feeling, but I make fun of her all the time. I'm always like, Diane, wandering the grounds. Like, I'm always like, she's still completely on my mind. Maybe it's because we're doing all these interviews all the time, but yeah, always wondering about this person.
Yeah. She's such an enduring source of fascination. Well, you've touched on a few scenes, Kristen. Were there any scenes that you want to just recall that were surprised you or that were particularly, memorable for you? There's a lot in the movie for us, but anything for you?
The pearl eating sequence really shocked me because it was written specifically, but it could have been directed in so many different ways. Obviously, it could have been a very quick flash. It could have had it shrieked and it went on in a way that was so bold and extreme. I knew we were making something surreal. I did not understand how abstract and weird he was gonna. It was like he took every instrument and just detuned it, and then still made you listen to the whole song. And I was like, you need to stop. This is crazy. That's the coolest thing, to come to set and be like, I had some goals and ambitions, and I definitely had a little like mark to hit in my mind's eye. And then you took that and you threw it into the distance. It's the best feeling in the world. I was like, I didn't expect this. Yeah.
It's so interesting talking to you about the movie and just generally looking at your career. Besides Pablo, you've worked with so many interesting directors, Catherine Hardwicke, Floria Sigismundi, Fincher, David Cronenberg now. You always produce something that feels fresh and daring and new. What drives you? What do you look for in your work?
I mean, like newness. I guess, especially, it's funny, like I want to be, there are certain boxes that you want to check in life, whether you're like a creative person or not, whatever your job is, there are certain things where you're like, oh, I should probably try that on. I kind of stopped doing that. Do you know what I mean? Like, the only way that I can say anything about my process or instincts or reasons for moving forward and making the choices that I make, I'm looking for like internal experience. I don't know. Like, if I talk to the right person, if somebody has the right tone of voice and says like, I really think that you need to do this movie with me, you could be anyone. Like, it's just a certain frequency that goes boom. Like, you're like, I need this. There's no way around it. I really didn't want to work this year as an actor. I really want to make my movie, and I'm going to. But I was sent a script the other day and I was like, man, I have to do that. There's no way around it. And so it's like really inconvenient, but I have to do that. So I don't know, but that feeling is the only way forward.
Yeah. Can you tell us what that role is? That script that you just received? Or
I actually don't know that I can. I'm not going to take that from them. I think they probably want to do a press release or some shit. So I mean, I don't know. Yeah. But I would love to be able to tell you. It's very exciting. One of my favorite new directors. Incredible. I wanted to meet this person. I like went after it, and then they gave me their movie. I was like, oh, this works. Talk to the people that you're fans of. It works. Right.
Well, we look forward to that. And then finally, looking forward to things, can you tell us a bit more about your feature directing debut? What you're lining up to direct?
I'm going to direct a movie called The Chronology of Water, and it's based on one of my favorite texts in my life. It's like a sacred book to me. Lydia Yuknovich wrote this memoir. She's a novelist, but this is her memoir. And I mean, what do you want to know? It's like very initial stages. The script is incredible. It's very it's a nonlinear story, but I think it reflects, again, like I just said, more of an inner life versus what happens on the outside. It's kind of what a memory feels like. It's all out of order and awash and a sort of atmospheric thing, but it also is a movie about art that saves. Like, this is a savior through art story. And Lydia's a hero. I mean, she's a hero. She's one of my favorite, like, at least the way she writes herself. She's one of my favorite figures in literature. I love her. Yeah.
Sounds
It's going to be
wild.
such a good role for a person. And like, I've cast it and I can't tell anyone that yet either, because it's like a thing that's just to save and do the right thing. But the young woman who's going to play this part is going to slaughter it. And I cannot wait to watch her do it.
Oh, it sounds wild. Are you going to be in it yourself?
No, there's not really a part for me.
Yeah.
I would.
Right. Yeah. And you'll shoot that this year?
If we're not funded and shooting by December, I think we will be. Yeah, you have to think that. That's how we're going to think. That's how we're moving forward.
Of course, positivity, absolutely. And Kristen, the last thing I want to ask you is this: at this stage in your career, you've done so much varied work, and we hope much more to come. Are there certain movies that you regard as well? Which movies do you regard as perhaps significant milestones for you that you've acted in?
I guess the first movie I ever did. I was a little guy, like I was like, I think I was 8 or 9 when I started auditioning to be an actor in movies. But I also did like a lot of commercial auditions and stuff like that. And it was like incredibly demoralizing and embarrassing. And I wanted to I couldn't do that. And so I was like, yeah, maybe it's actually not for me. And I had one last audition and it was this like really beautiful original indie movie that Rose Trochet made. And she's a really lovely person. And I walked into the room and I was like, this is what I want to do. I was like, wait, no, I don't want to stop acting actually. It was a really nice feeling to make that movie. I was like, okay, so this is it for life. I want to do this forever.
What was that called?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. The Safety of Objects. And then, I don't know, I guess the things that have like changed me in a way, I guess it's like hard to describe. The follow-up question is always, well, how did it change you? It's like, I don't know. It just made me go in a different direction. Into the Wild. I worked with Sean Penn and I just was like, this person makes movies. It was just the way we were like running around, and Eric Gauthier is the DP, shot that movie. I've worked with him since. I worked on a movie called On the Road with him. All of these people were like little magic dancers. And I was like, we're all little wild animals together. It was just like the best feeling in the world. And I've been chasing that ever since. There are certain things you want to get back to, like working with Olivier Assayas on everything we've done. We've done 2 movies together, and I've just made like a little cameo in the show he's doing.
Right.
He's doing an expanded version of Irma Vep. And I cannot wait to see that. I mean, that show. Alicia Vikander plays her. It kind of blows my mind that he's even doing that. I don't even know what it could possibly be like. I can't wait to see that. Other than that, I don't know. You know, Twilight was a big deal. I did that for a long time. That was fun. Yeah.
That's great, Kristen. I think that's all we've got time for in today's Q&A with you. But, you know, thank you so much for taking part in this Screen International For Your Consideration Q&A today. And for all the viewers watching the movie, for more information about the series, visit screendaily.com/FYC-screenings. And that is all we have time for today. But thank you for attending. And Kristen, thank you very much for your time, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. I very much appreciate it. Have a good one.